Good afternoon and welcome to ICE webinars. Today we are joined by Francis Vonder Haar, VP and GM Imaging at PartsSource. Now, Francis brings over 30 years of leadership experience in the medical equipment healthcare industry. ICE webinars would like to thank our sponsor, PartsSource. With the mission of ensuring healthcare is always on, PartsSource empowers owners and operators of mission critical equipment to maximize clinical availability and patient throughput while achieving sustainable savings and efficiencies. PartsSource connects more than 5,000 hospitals and 15,000 clinical sites with more than 10,000 suppliers, enabling access to parts, services, and training through the leading technology platform for managing mission-critical healthcare equipment. The PartsSource enterprise software platform, PartsSource Pro, enables 1,600 leading hospitals across the country to solve a shared set of challenges and maximize asset uptime, reduce costs, and increase procurement efficiency related to equipment maintenance. So for more information, please visit partsource.com. Now, just a quick reminder that our 2025 ICE Expo takes place at the Rosen Plaza Hotel, Orlando, Florida, on February the 22nd to the 24th. Now, the Imaging Conference and Expo is the only conference dedicated to imaging directors, radiology administrators, and imaging engineers. ICE offers valuable CE credit from the ASRT and ACI and is in a unique community of key decision makers and influential imaging professionals. So for more details about our expo, please visit attendice.com. Okay, today's webinar is eligible for one Art Category A CE credit by the AHRA. You can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey, which will be emailed 1 hour after the completion of today's webinar. Now, you must complete the survey to receive your one CE credit, and you'll be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. We'll be wrapping up today's presentation with a live Q&A, so please submit your question anytime using the question feature on the webinar dashboard. So let's kick off today's webinar by giving away one of our ICE gym bags to the attendee that can tell me the answer to the following trivia question. The Super Bowl takes place on Sunday, so which city is hosting it this year? Answer now using the questions feature on your dashboard, and I'll reveal the answer at the end of the webinar. As I mentioned earlier, Francis Vonder Haar is our presenter today, and he will be discussing transforming diagnostic imaging, trends, challenges, and solutions. So Francis, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate it, and hello to everyone. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join us and go over this topic. We're really looking forward to your questions at the end, so be sure to don't hold back, and we'd love to hear what's on your mind and what comes up as we go over the materials today. We've got a lot to cover, and we're really excited to cover with you today some of the work that we've been doing on your behalf in the industry. PartsSource is very dedicated to making sure that we drive the business to support your needs. And so what we're going to talk about today is really some of the insights that we've developed out of the research that has been done, and we'll talk about that in the overall healthcare trends and what's emerging there. Same, then we'll diagnose that down, we'll move that down into diagnostic imaging as well. So you'll get a little bit more specific on what's happening there. We'll talk about the challenges that have been surfacing, and we'll talk about how we're breaking down barriers to those challenges to do the service. And really, we'll pepper this throughout the day today with some really innovative solutions that we're really excited to share with you. So Albert Einstein, he once said, "You can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And that's true. Adapting to thrive, that's a fundamental value to our belief system in this company. This quote, though, summarizes the approach we've taken to deliver value to you in the mission that you have of servicing your patients. Discovering what the HTM community cares about has been the driving force of our work at PartsSource. And based on that, we're excited to share with you some of these very valuable insights. And then acting on these insights and partnering with you to advance really transformative innovation to solve our shared challenges, we think is core to our entire community model. Now, Einstein emphasized the transformative power of new thinking. It suggests that when people come together and they identify the challenges that matter, their unified passion, their commitment become the driving force for meaningful change. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Just a quick introduction then on PartsSource. Linda described what we are as a company, but firstly, PartsSource has an unparalleled network of both provider organizations providing healthcare to mission-critical healthcare to patients and suppliers, both OEM and aftermarket suppliers. And what you're looking at just depicts a small sample of some of the OEM brands on the right-hand side that's supplied by PartsSource. We have a rapidly growing community of the leading providers as well, and really forward-thinking suppliers that are tied to that. By connecting these organizations, we drive what we see as dramatic improvement in cost, in quality, and efficiency, leveraging scale, and using the unique insights and capabilities built for that purpose. We partner with leading healthcare organizations to maximize their uptime and maximize their equipment utilization. That's a theme that you'll hear throughout the presentation today. So PartsSource has been servicing the diagnostic imaging world for 20 years. And in the early years, we were really primarily known as the place to go find a hard to find part or a hard to find piece of equipment. And that might be how you're using us today. But in fact, most of the 500,000 plus orders we place for the 3,500 plus hospitals and health systems we serve are new OEM original parts and balanced with aftermarket parts, imaging and biomed. Our automated and digitized procurement platform streamlines that process. We provide connection to over 5,000 vetted OEMs and suppliers and 15,000 clinical sites. So we provide much more than just replacement parts. We provide a comprehensive clinical resource platform for our customers. And we're really expanding on that now to be an extension of your HTM team, and that as well as an extension of your supply chain team. In a bit, here's how we depict that. Via some of the acquisitions that PartsSource has made, it's really enabled us to deliver a comprehensive set of solutions to manage your mission critical resources for what we're looking for is improved clinical availability. An expanded parts offering. We're known for parts, not only in biomed, but also the expanded parts offering in imaging and facilities and lab. And really a very quickly and much in demand growing service portfolio. That includes repair and service agreements, which you'll hear more about during the session today. And you'll hear about some of that from we'll talk about that from some of our adopter clients too. Additionally, we provide labor solutions. Labor solutions is where we'll spend a significant amount of our time. Labor solutions including biomedical and imaging training through our partnerships with CBET and RSTI, which you'll also hear about more in a moment. So let's get into the details. We spend a significant amount of time and challenged ourselves to take on the daunting task of identifying the most important challenges facing hospital and healthcare systems today. I'd like to share our findings. So millions of patients a day rely on our nation's health system for quality care. But the mission's being threatened really by rising costs and thinning margins. That leaves you less able to invest in the mission of quality patient care. So 66% of hospitals expect costs to grow in this upcoming year. They also see their number one expense line, labor, dramatically increasing due to a tight labor supply market. This puts continued pressure on hospital margins, which are on average 1% across healthcare, which is incredibly incredibly tight. And more than 50% of our hospitals are holding their capital expenditures flat from 2024 and into 2025. These are the trends that we see. So how do these challenges translate into goals for the HTM sector and healthcare? So we asked that question. In fact, we asked what the most significant challenge was in achieving those goals. And starting with the left, self-performing specific repairs or otherwise bringing specific repairs in-house, however in-house may be described, it tops the list. It tops the list of the 2025 goals for healthcare in general. This is true actually no matter who you are. That is the specific goal. The goal listed at the bottom of the stack, standardizing processes for efficiency, that was next. Many of the other goals, as you can see, fell just below those two, including reducing operating costs and really very importantly, demonstrating the value of the team, which those two are very closely linked. Yes, articulating your value is a challenge and a goal for 2025. Now, moving to the right, then we asked, what is the most significant challenge? And the labor shortage problem dominated. 63% of our respondents indicated that their labor shortage is the most dominant issue. I don't think that's going to really surprise anybody, but that was followed by training and access to training, as well as then influencing internal stakeholders. So interesting, there are three most challenging areas, and influencing the internal stakeholders was identified as one of those three. So that's insightful for us all. But let's start with what the current state is, and then we'll talk about how we move forward from the current state. So as we saw, there's multiple market forces just buffeting the HTM leaders at once. Labor rose to the top. According to our research, it's taking 2 to 6 months to fill biomed roles, depending on the skill level, and it can take even more than 6 months for highly skilled roles like imaging or lab. Onboarding new talent in the industry, new talent, takes 10 to 12 months. So bringing new people into the industry takes a year to accomplish and bring them up to speed. So as you'll hear in a bit, our new Pro-Talent Partnership and Pro-Talent Initiative aims to reduce this to 7 to 9 months. Additionally, there are really actually only 22 colleges graduating 400 BMETs each year. So this math doesn't work, as the need for BMETs is much larger. More like 12,000 BMETs are needed to fill the gap over the next 10 years. So how do we help close that gap? Well, healthcare organizations are placing enormous pressure on you all to hold costs down, which is counterintuitive to filling the gap. Those cost pressures are going to continue to grow. The way we're helping is data. Data is essential for healthcare organizations to effectively respond to the new healthcare reality. For instance, 50% of those in the marketplace indicate they always evaluate OEM alternatives when available. Makes sense that 50% do not always evaluate OEM alternatives, so that's somewhat insightful. Lastly, the 45% use historical data to purchase parts prior to the need to mitigate what we all know can be supply chain disruption. But the data on what to do and what to do it with is significantly important. And HTM leaders have a growing need for that and the reliance upon that data for decision-making, for justification, and again, for positioning the value of your in-house teams. But let's hone in then on the talent and staffing elements of the pain points. The Bureau of Labor reports that 40% of BMETs are 55 and older. 22% are over the age of 60. So 22% are 5 years or less away from retirement. Our research confirms what the BLS reports as well. And as mentioned, at the time of onboarding a new employee into this industry, the new employee time is 10 to 12 months to place and make a technician fully effective. Now, in that time frame, we are seeing an impact negatively to equipment uptime and to service costs. Talent management systems, well, they're largely unsophisticated. There's some good solutions out there, but it was interesting. 80% of the market relies on Excel or homegrown solutions to manage their HTM resources. And that really just creates an opportunity for some additional gap filling that we have some thoughts on. And then lastly, training is critical, right? But HTM leaders aren't satisfied with today's training options. They want help accessing not only the training, but they want help accessing the critical service software that's required in order to put that training into action. So this feedback represents incredibly important opportunities and strategic best practices that can help us to collectively overcome the challenges between you and your goals. So we'd like to talk a little bit about this concept called pro-talent. Pro-talent is an approach that creates a sustainable and scalable training agenda. And why is that important? Well, you all are demanding really new talent solutions as you face new high coverage risks, limited talent options, and very long staffing times, as we mentioned. This problem is actually one of strategic importance. It's a national problem, demanding an approach and a capability of delivering a national solution. This isn't an isolated problem by any means at all. And beyond the data presented by the BLS, and that collected through the surveys that we had recently performed in our focus groups, really revolutionary changes in HTM are being driven by you all, and in part by new technology and the additional demand. And maybe most notably, the demand to increase training in associated areas of medical device integration, cybersecurity, telehealth, and other areas are significant. So how do we approach this? And here's how that's done. First is through an evaluation. The evaluation is a digital competency mapping of a client's workforce, enabling a data-driven approach to training development and hiring to support what each of your service strategies are. So it's a data mapping exercise tied to the destination of what the strategy is. Second, of course, is onboarding. And onboarding is, for us, a comprehensive digital-first onboarding approach that prepares new technicians for the roles in weeks, not months. And then beyond onboarding is further training. And that's really evidence-based, product-specific training. It's available digitally and in person. And the idea is proactively support your service optimization journey. And lastly, none of this happens without recruitment, without getting more people into the industry. So exclusive recruitment access to CBET's recent graduates and the community through which an integrated job board is supported by talent matching expertise. So an innovative way to approach the talent gap itself. On the talent labor supply side, look, we're with you. We recognize that the scarcest resources for all of us is the labor. In partnership with CBET and with RSTI, we're fortifying Northeast Ohio as a center of excellence for multi-vendor imaging and biomedical training. Later this year, we'll open up a biomedical training service of excellence in Northeast Ohio. You see a rolling depiction of that in the training center here on your screen in front of you. That's what it will look like when you come to see what this is, what this training center is going to look like. We'll offer CBET courses, which, like anything we do, will be digital first and data driven. It will help ramp up new technicians, as well as product specific training to expand the breadth of the equipment your team can repair and maintain. Inclusive of VR training will help train your team members in your own four walls and avoid the downtime that's associated with travel. Additionally, RSTI will provide the hands-on learning that it is well known for at all phases of a imaging development need. As the need to grow imaging skills emerges, they continue to invest to help meet that need. Recently, they've just invested in 8 new courses that covers the latest technology that is in demand in the marketplace today. So it's good that there's a method to make that happen. But let's expand on that last point about RSTI and talk about engaging and put some fuel in the engine that's built to do that. RSTI now offers SkillBridge approved courses, and that's applicable to all 133 annual training courses that they run. So 133 opportunities to attend different various kinds of training at RSTI on 87 makes and models. We're really excited about the SkillBridge program that really connects our returning service members to career job training in diagnostic imaging service. We've already got 6 SkillBridge students that have come through the facility to get this training and to start their next level of career. We tie that as well to GI Bill approved courses, so veterans can still use GI Bill benefits to transition into a new field or even just advance their careers with diagnostic imaging training. And then lastly, we have a registered apprenticeship program. Get paid for on-the-job diagnostic imaging service training and work experience, classroom instruction, all while on active duty. And so these are 3 methods that we see as an important way to infuse the additional talent into the industry and start to replenish the retiring workforce that's happening today. Okay, so we've got the ability to provide some training. We've got the ability to identify and digitally understand what is the most important skill to develop. How do we tie that to the strategy and the ability to deliver the result in various different kinds of training courses? That's great. But if you can't use those skills when you get back to your facility, that's terrible. So it's really important that we spend a few minutes talking about 21 CFR and this concept called AIAT. So what is AIAT, first of all? AIAT stands for Assemble, Install, Adjust, and Test. And this is really what you might call the second challenge in diagnostic imaging in particular. The first challenge, let's get labor that knows how to do it. The second challenge is let's allow that labor access to do what they've been trained to do. And the challenge is really very well met, and it was laid out for the entire industry by the FDA. The good news is that the OEMs make available standard service keys to perform service on their equipment, enabling in-house groups to resolve statistically about 93% of service problems on their own. So how did that happen? The FDA drove this requirement through 21 CFR 1020. And what that requirement sets in place is that manufacturers are required to provide access to assemble, install, adjust, and test, AIAT, a customer's equipment. And how does that look? The manufacturers are required to provide instructions adequate to ensure compliance of their components. If you think about what's happening on radiation producing equipment, it is required in some cases to fill out an FDA 2579 form, which certifies that the service was performed within the specifications set by the manufacturer. How do you do that? Well, the manufacturers have to make available the process to meet those expectations. And in doing that, the FDA requires this quote, all the information necessary to ensure products will comply with applicable performance standards when assembled, installed, adjusted, and tested. That includes instructions and manuals. It doesn't include service manuals. It includes other just informational equipment, informational manuals. It includes service software where applicable. A lot of equipment doesn't need service software, and it includes service keys where applicable. So this is a requirement that the FDA has put in place, and it's driven by 21 CFR. And to be specific, the three major brands, they give access. So in fact, the non-major brands give access as well. And so it's interesting because there's a lot of confusion on this part of applicable service delivery. And maybe you've been misinformed, but we want to be able to clarify the reality of how to address the service headwinds that may have come your way. That QR code that's on your screen is a code that you can scan, and it will take you to a different webinar that's specific to this topic. And what it really does is it clarifies the myths and realities of what is available into the marketplace and how people get the work done in a very standard, repeatable, scalable way. So check that out if that's of interest to you. But let's talk about the big three. Most of the install base is supplied by the big three in the world. And GE, Philips, and Siemens each have a way to give access to their non-proprietary service documentation and service methods. GE does it with what they call the Common Documentation Library. You could literally Google GE Common Documentation Library, and it will take you to the page that gives you access to PDF documentation that you can download, all of the makes and models that are listed there that are radiation producing are available for you to peruse. There's no registration required. It's available for your use, as the FDA has required the OEMs to do. OEC takes a slightly different approach. OEC uses something called a GSAC key, and it's a little USB key, and you can get more information on that at the OEC websites as well. The interesting part about the OEC approach is it is when you get a service key for OEC, it is a very system-specific ID, and one key works in one machine. So they take a slightly different approach, but they give access. Philips, they provide online access in a application that's called InCenter. Once again, you can Google that, and you can get to that online. Registration is required in order to use that, but registration is a relatively simple process. And once again, once you're registered with Philips, you get access to PDF documentation and the service software required to service the equipment that's in your facilities. And Siemens, maybe they make it the easiest. Siemens, all you have to do is call the Siemens Uptime Center by phone. They staff it 24/7. You provide them your functional location number. That's your Siemens system ID. They call it their FL number. And they'll provide you a code that will enable the service function for a certain period of time, up to 10 days. And that code will allow you to do the service that's required instantly right on the phone for that device. Once that code expires, and if you need help again, you simply repeat that process. Call the Uptime Center, and they'll make available for you the service software code. So the other manufacturers, I'll do it a little bit differently, but this covers the majority of the install base in the US. So the idea is train people, get people in the industry, train them how to do work, enable them to do the work, and help keep patient care flowing. So that's great, but sometimes you get stuck, and sometimes you need help. Everybody needs help at times. And so if that would happen, to augment an approach that you have, and a lot of our clients have, as performing the services themselves, we are making available and have made available a virtualized service network. So in addition to maybe your growing team or a team that you're establishing, sometimes you just need to tap into someone else who's around, who's a specialist. Well, we can help fast. Fast is important. The bottom line on a CT, if looking at the right side of the page, if a CT is down for 2% of its time where it's in demand, that equates to about $600,000 in lost top line revenue for a 1% margin institution. That's an incredible impact. And when hospitals' margins are so thin, that is something that everyone pays attention to. If it's down 5% of the useful time, it's about $1.5 million impact in 1 year. So a significant event, which means that not every problem can be solved on your own. You want help fast. It's a simple process where we engage, again, a virtual service network. PartsSource doesn't have its own service teams. We engage the service teams that are existing in the marketplace. And we provide performance management. We provide technician level credentialing, guaranteed response time, and guaranteed results. So that's helpful if you're ever in a situation, which happens from time to time, where help is needed. So when you combine the current set of pressures and the growing need for data and the impressive capabilities of technology as it's moving forward, really the next 10 years looks a lot different than the last 10 years. We collectively, we're facing an important inflection point in the history of this industry. But the last 10 years, they were all about the diagnosis, digitizing and streamlining the medical equipment supply chain. The next 10 years are about how we arrive at the diagnosis. What data, what decision support, what remote services are needed in this world of less labor and a lower resource pool? And how do we build towards it? Well, we build towards it with the fundamental equation of utilization and availability is revenue to an institution. There is a huge impact of technology driving to the ultimate goal of doing more with less. The opportunity to enable a higher asset availability and utilization maximizes the capacity of the equipment. And we recognize this must happen for healthcare to operate more efficiently. We partner with you to help make this happen. We help solve for both. And how are we doing that? What is in the works to make that happen? And this is what we're doing. We are building a clinical service improvement consortium. This is a knowledge management registry used to accelerate differential diagnosis of your equipment. Here's the concept. Every health system has a CMMS, has information that they collect. We are partnering with health systems, OEMs, and non-OEMs to collect the information, and we're sanitizing the information to eliminate its uniqueness and eliminate its sources, just bringing it down to what's the repair pathway, what's the problem, what's the resolution. And from that, building a management registry of information. The method is collect this information from the various different entities that perform services in this industry. That could be multi-site, multi-CMMS, as national organizations, clinical engineering teams, etc. and then build an LLM, and we will do a train ML model in order to produce for those who participate an infrastructure that they can use to curate a solution most rapidly to a problem that they're having. This isn't just a dream. This is something we've already launched. It is in place in 5 health systems already. And the output, while it's still building, is producing this collaborative, accessible knowledge database. So we're really excited about how that's going to be part of our future moving ahead. So it's good to have an approach to labor. It's good to have an approach to understanding how to be more efficient, how to solve problems in a different way. And that is going to be the baseline of what PartsSource is helping people do. But in the end, you know what? We actually do still need parts. How about that? So let's talk about parts for a few minutes. PartsSource is probably best known, as I mentioned before, for being the supplier of imaging parts throughout the world, and the largest supplier of biomedical parts throughout the entire United States. We do that through just the fundamentals of transparent pricing, where we continue to revamp our imaging pricing, and we continue to drive discounts for our customers through our collective buying power. We provide what we know is mission critical parts in stock. We have 60,000 SKUs in stock. That's soon to be about 80,000 SKUs in stock of the items that you need. We have a total of 250,000 imaging SKUs available. We supply that with over 300 suppliers throughout the marketplace. We focus on you. We focus on our most important clients and those who are serving diagnostic imaging market with 10 and 30-minute response times 24/7. And then lastly, as we mentioned before, training and support is a significant portion of what we do. On-site training, virtual training, and hands-on industry training. Support as well from things such as magnet monitoring. So if that is an objective, have we been able to achieve it? And we're happy to share that there is a significant reduction in the amount of labor needed to procure the material replacement parts in an organization when this model is employed, when the PartsSource Pro model is put into place. If you're a regional health organization, the optimized workflow, which is what happens when this platform is enabled and engaged in the organization, changes the ordering time from about 70 minutes to about 15. If you're a large national healthcare organization, those numbers go to 17 minutes from about 85. Generally, there's more requirement to shop for those organizations, get 3 quotes, so to speak. Well, that's an automatic feature for the PartsSource Pro customers. And again, large national ISOs has a similar amount of reduction. So the most precious element, the most precious thing that an organization has is their scarce and shrinking labor force. The idea is let's get them more working at the top of their license and less doing the administrative work required to make that happen by reducing the amount of time it takes to get the materials needed to conduct repairs. So there's an engine that makes that work. That engine that drives results for our customers is what we call our precision procurement evidence-based warehouse. The way that works is we have 3 billion data elements in a longitudinal warehouse. Over a dozen quantitative factors then are applied when a customer requests a part number or a SKU. We instantly apply a dozen quantitative factors in order to identify where the optimal part can be supplied to a customer to provide the most optimal outcome. We apply that to thousands of SKUs, millions of SKUs, thousands of suppliers, and through the algorithm that captures that information, we produce a shopping cart with options in it. And the options are presented to the customer for the customer to choose. Which one would they like? Customer can pre-choose. If a customer indicates, hey, I just want an OEM original part for the job that I'm working on, maybe it's an inexpensive wear item. The process is even faster because it's an instantaneous result from request to delivered quote. But the important part of the variety that's out there is we take what is an inconsistent and hit and miss quality and drive 99.5% repeatable quality outcomes. The last thing somebody wants is their replacement part showing up or not showing up, or showing up and not working. So the algorithm drives a precision output for anyone to take advantage of. Well, why is it important for us to be fast? It's important for us to be fast because you all have asked for it to get to you fast. 70% of all orders require overnight shipping or faster. 70%. And that is a massive amount of material that's moving to a end user at a high expense, and we need to optimize every element of the cost chain, including shipping. And so the speed ahead of that shipping process is extremely important. But in the end, our customers do choose 70% as a overnight shipment rate. So we have parts. We have the ability to supply them in an engine that gets the right ones with the right quality with repeatable outcomes. Wouldn't it be nice if that was enriched to one other level? And that is what we wanted to share with you here. We're really happy to share that for the marketplace, PartsSource has introduced a 2025 imaging rewards program. What is that? It's an imaging program that allows an institution to earn RSTI tuition with every imaging part purchase, supporting workforce development. That is the goal. It's not uncommon where, of course, hospitals and organizations will have a budget to supply the repairs and the services that are needed, but more and more, the budget to supply the training to the individuals that we talked about this entire time that's available out there, the budget is thin, the budget is cut. So we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to earn their way to budget and earn their own RSTI tuition training budget. So throughout 2025, buy diagnostic imaging parts. Shop any modality, shop any make, any condition. You can choose to purchase OEM brand new materials or aftermarket, non-new OEM materials. And what will happen is you'll accumulate your way, depending on who you are. If you're a hospital provider, you'll accumulate your way for every $50,000 that's spent. You'll receive a $2,000 RSTI tuition training credit. And you can earn unlimited credits. And that's just to purchase the equipment and the replacement parts that you need in your everyday world anyway. So now the idea is let's assist people in getting the budget to do all the things that we know is important to the mission critical work that's done. And that is our 2025 rewards program. So there's a lot that we covered. I want to thank you for your time. We're going to open it up for questions here in just a second. And with just the final note that as you think about what it is that we can do for you and how we can make you successful, we understand that it falls into the category of buy with confidence, save money, and then earn rewards in this tuition earn-out program. Okay. Love to take any questions you have.
Great. I've got a couple, Francis, actually. The first one is, if data is so important to healthcare management, what tools are being built to make information more useful?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? It is. That if data is more important, that is something that we're building for. So what if you could have a centralized view of all device health and performance data across all of your institutions? A single repository for training, service enablement resources, enterprise compliance controls, AI-driven insights to reduce your defects and improve your equipment availability, and just really a kind of a continuous improvement engine to unlock asset availability. We have built a single platform to manage all critical asset supply chain activity. That is data put into work. That's data driven into information and allowing action to occur. And that's not, as I mentioned before earlier, not just an idea. That's something that PartsSource has already started to roll out across its customer base.
Great, and here's a good question here is, how does the right to repair movement tie to AIAT?
Oh, that's a great question. So the right to repair movement takes AIAT to the next level. So to bring us back to AIAT, assemble, install, adjust, and test, the FDA requires that you are able to repair and calibrate and install and adjust and test your radiation producing equipment for the safety of the world. But the right to repair expands that not only for radiation producing equipment, but for non-radiation producing equipment, with the simple concept that indicates that the manufacturers don't hold a monopoly on providing service, no matter what it is. And right to repair is really picking up a lot of steam across many of the states. And that's great if you're in one of the states where it's picking up. However, it's not really picking it up fast in the states in healthcare. It may be in agriculture or in automotive. And there's a lot of advancements that are going on there, and we'll benefit from that ultimately. But the national right to repair movement has taken the right to repair, this AIAT service access, to another level, where it was just determined last fall that for the service of medical equipment, that the owners of the devices, someone who's servicing a device, does have the right to use whatever tools are available in the marketplace for services. That's above AIAT. That's a hit and miss development right now, but there is a permission window being opened up. So it's going to be a really interesting concept to watch to see how that expands in a real true national format.
Great. Okay, another question that's popped up is, how can I access on-site service from PartsSource at my hospital?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, there's really a couple different ways. The best way to do it right now is if you do want on-site service access, the PartsSource catalog has all the service in it as well. But a lot of people like to just contact RSTI and go to the RSTI website to understand what's available, what the schedule is, what the cost of training is, etc. And so my primary recommendation would be try the RSTI website first. And if it's a biomedical training, our CBET website as well.
Okay, here's another good one here. What constitutes an effective technician? I feel like 10 years to become an effective technician is a long time.
Yeah, it is a good question. It's debatable, right? What we thought an effective technician is the fully rounded technician who's come up to speed. And there's always learning available, but we do believe that it's going to take a significant amount of time to continue to evolve training with someone who is new into the industry. Our clients are telling us that it's taking them about 10 years to do that.
Okay, great. Now, before we wrap up, Francis, is there anything else you'd like to close with?
No, we really appreciate your time today. If there's anything more that we can answer for you, or something struck a chord and you'd like to ask some more specific questions that weren't appropriate for the chat, We'd love to discuss that with you. 2 ways to get a hold of us. The email that's on your screen, imagingsales@partsource.com, is one way if it's not an urgent. But if you got something that's more urgent, just call us, and we'll help you with our agents that answer the phone.
Great. Thank you so much, Francis, for your time today and such a great presentation. And also thank you to our sponsor, PartsSource. So please visit partsource.com for more information. Now, as promised, the answer to today's trivia question is New Orleans. So congratulations to our winner, Orson Tarver. Just a quick reminder, you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey, which will be emailed 1 hour after the completion of today's webinar. You must complete the survey to receive your 1 Art Category A CE credit by the HRA, and you'll be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. Please visit ICE Webinars for more details of all our upcoming ICE webinars and, of course, complimentary registration. If you've missed any of our past ICE webinars, please visit icewebinars.live to view our whole webinar archive. Thank you for your time today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.